ancient world became increasingly interconnected, Bolsheviks' attributes merged with those of other deities. In Greco-Roman context, he was sometimes identified with Zeus or Jupiter, showcasing the adaptability of his worship. Bolsheviks embodied the celestial forces, symbolizing the order and fertility provided by the heavens. His worship reflected the ancient understanding of the sky as a source of both blessing, rain, and destruction, storms. The rise of monotheistic religions like Christianity and Islam gradually supplanted the worship of Bolsheviks and other polytheistic deities. By the late Roman period, many temples dedicated to Baal-shaman were repurposed for Christian worship, and his cult faded into history. Baal-shaman remains a figure in the interest of studies of ancient religions, highlighting the interconnectedness of Semitic, Greco-Roman, and Mesopotamian traditions. After that, this is where I get into Hadad. Now, Hadad, also spelled Adad or Had, H-A-D-D, is a prominent deity in the ancient Semitic pantheon, primarily worshipped in the region of Mesopotamia, the Levant, and parts of Anatolia. He is associated with storms, rain, thunder, and fertility, embodying the life-giving yet destructive forces of nature. His worship dates back to the 3rd millennia BCE and is intertwined with the cultures of mythologies and the Amorites. With the cultures of mythologies of the Amorites, Canaanites, Assyrians, and Babylonians. Hadad's name is believed to derive from the Semitic root HDD, meaning to thunder or to roar. This connection reflects his role as a storm god. He is known by various names across different cultures. Adad in Mesopotamia contexts, particularly among the Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. Baal-Hadad in Canaanite religion, where Baal, meaning Lord, became a common epithet for him. Teshub in Hurrian and Hittite traditions, where he is closely associated with the storm god of Anatolia. Hadad is often depicted wielding a thunderbolt or holding a club, emphasizing his control over the storms and lightning. He is sometimes shown riding a chariot pulled by bulls, which symbolizes strength and fertility. The bull was sacred to Hadad and became a key symbol of his worship. In his iconography, Hadad's storm-related powers are emphasized, representing both the blessing of rain for crops and the destructive potential of storms, floods, and lightning. Hadad's primary role was as a bringer of rain, making him vital to agricultural societies dependent on constant rainfall for their crops. His favor was sought through offerings and rituals, particularly in times of drought or famine. As a storm god, Hadad was also viewed as a divine warrior who could vanquish chaos and protect his people. His storms were often interpreted as manifestations of his power against enemies or cosmic threats. In many myths, Hadad played a central role in the divine order, mediating conflicts among gods or intervening in human affairs. His authority among other deities varied across regions, but he was often considered a supreme or highly influential god. Hadad features prominently in ancient mythology, particularly in Canaanite and Mesopotamian traditions. In Ugaritic text, Hadad, as Baal-Hadad, is the chief storm god and a central figure in the Baal cycle, a series of myths found in the ancient city of Ugarit, modern-day Ras Shamra, Syria. Baal battles and defeats Yam, the sea god, asserting his dominance over chaos and establishing his reign as king of the gods. Baal constructs a palace on Mount Zephin, symbolizing his authority over the natural world and the divine realm. Baal clashes with Mot, the god of death, in a cyclical struggle that represents the seasonal cycles of fertility and drought. In Mesopotamia, Hadad or Adad is associated with the god Enlil and sometimes regarded Hadad is associated with God Enlil and sometimes regarded as his son. In Mesopotamia, Hadad or Adad is associated with the god Enlil and sometimes regarded as his son. Adad's role in Mesopotamia myth often revolves around Adad is one of the gods who participates in the Great Flood myth, wielding his storm powers to bring rain and destruction. Adad's storms are interpreted as tools of divine justice, punishing humanity or testing their loyalty to the gods. Hadad was worshipped across the ancient Near East, with temples and altars dedicated to him in key cities. Aleppo was a major center for Hadad worship, where he was venerated as the city's patron deity. The Temple of Hadad in Aleppo dates back to the early 2nd millennium BCE. In Babylonian religion, Adad had a prominent temple where he was worshipped alongside Shamash, the sun god. Hadad was venerated in Palmyra under the title Baal Shaman, which I said this isn't factual, because there's different texts. There's some that say that it was a separate entity, and then some that say that it was one and the same. But I wanted to stop there and say that before I moved on. Hadad was venerated in Palmyra under the title Baal Shaman, Lord of the Heavens, merging his identity with other sky gods. Zeus, Jupiter, the Greek and Roman sky gods share storm-related attributes with Hadad, including the thunderbolt. Teshub, the Hurrian and Hittite storm god, often identified with Hadad, played a similar role in Anatolia mythology. Indra, in Vedic traditions, Indra is a storm and rain god comparable to Hadad in his control over the natural world and his warrior aspects. Hadad's battle with Yam is a central myth of Canaanite religion, particularly as recorded in the Baal cycle, a series of texts discovered at Ugarit, modern-day Rosh Shamra, Syria. This epic narrative portrays the cosmic struggle between Hadad, often referred to as Baal Hadad, and Yam, the god of the sea, symbolizing the conflict between order and chaos. The myth also establishes Hadad's position as the king of the gods and master of the natural world, particularly storms and fertility. Baal Hadad, the storm god, also called Rider of the Clouds, is the hero of the story. He is associated with rain, fertility, and the forces that sustain life. Yam represents the sea and chaos. Yam, whose name literally means sea, is portrayed as a destructive and unruly force. In some texts, he is referred to as Nahor, the river, or Judge Nahor, emphasizing his power and dominion. El, the head of the Canaanite pantheon, often depicted as a distant and passive figure in this myth. Asherah, the mother goddess and consort of El, sometimes involved in the negotiation and power dynamics of the gods. Kothar Wakasis, the craftsman god who creates magical weapons for Baal al-Hadad, enabling him to defeat Yam. The story begins with El, the chief god, granting Yam dominion over the other gods. Yam is declared the ruler of the divine assembly and demands submission from the other deities, including Baal Hadad. This sets the stage for a confrontation as Baal refuses to bow to Yam's authority. Yam sends messengers to El's court, demanding that Baal Hadad and the other gods surrender to him. The gods are intimidated by Yam's power and hesitate to defy him. However, Baal, confident in his strength and destiny, refuses to yield and prepares for battle. Before the battle, Baal seeks assistance from Kothar Wakasis, the divine craftsman. Kothar forges two magical weapons, Yagrash, Chaser, and Amur, Driver, which are imbued with extraordinary powers. These weapons are specifically designed to defeat Yam and subdue his chaotic forces. Armed with his new weapons, Baal confronts Yam in a climatic struggle.